Welcome to the Black Script Storytellers. My name is Kevin Marable, and today our guest is a writer, producer, and director. She's worked on a multitude of projects within her ongoing career, to include the NAACP Award nominated The First Lady of BMF, the Tanisha Welch story, and her talents range from writing sitcoms, sketch comedies, dramas, to non-scripted formats. Gabrielle Collins is with us. Gabrielle, how you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Kevin.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining. It's been great knowing you, and finally we are able to get this interview going. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. So there's a question that I like to start off every interview with. It's a very simple question, but some might find it a little difficult to answer. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, and that question is, who is Gabrielle Collins?
You start with a tough one out the gate.
That one's easy. You know. You should know like who you are as a person. That's typically
Good.
right.
Well, like in the intro, I am a writer, producer, director. I live in Los Angeles, and I've been in the business a long time. I started in scripted television, actually, and transitioned to films. So it's been very interesting for me. While I was in television, I did scripted and non-scripted. I moved to non-scripted development, and I thought, you know what? I think this is where I belong. And then God was like, nah, I'm not. You're supposed to be writing, girl. What you doing? It's to develop, but go back to work. And so all of these like film projects started coming toward me, and I was like, so am I writing movies now? And so that's kind of where I am. I'm trying to get back to television though, because they got that
Okay.
they got
Okay.
that.
All right. So, as you stated, as I mentioned earlier, you are a writer, but you're also a producer and a director. I take it that writing came first for you.
It did. It did. Actually, I wrote my first book when I was like 8 years old. But of
Really?
course, I was a child's book.
Okay.
Um, my mom, God rest her soul, was just the most beautiful woman. She really believed in the arts and exploring your creativity. So she would buy me blank books.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if they still make them. If they do, it's a great thing for kids, but it would be a blank book with pictures, and you had to write the story to it.
Okay, that's interesting. A blank book with pictures already in them, and then you have to create any story that your imagination would take on.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I'm originally from Chicago. Chicago was a big commercial town.
Mhm.
And I was like, I want to write commercials. I loved commercials. And so that's what I went to school for, copyright marketing. And then when I moved to LA, I got a job assisting a writer on a TV show. And I was like, wait a second, you guys write everything? Like everything? And so of course, I loved television altogether. And that's really what introduced me to television writing,
Okay.
working for the writer. And then I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
think I can do this. If I can do, a 30-second, 60-second commercial, I think I could do a script.
Right. Okay. Now, at some point in your career early on, you began writing in the business as a WGA writer's trainee. Can you explain a little bit about what a WGA writer's trainee is?
Sure, absolutely. On most television shows, you have to, when you're, I think you have to be a second season show
Mm.
in order to have a WGA trainee. So it's sort of a way to get a writer into the writer's room that doesn't have any credits or any experience.
Okay.
And then they can get on staff, like the next year or whatever. But most shows won't get one until, like I said, the second season. So it's just like an internship sort of program that the WGA has. And I was fortunate enough to become one because at the time I worked at Fox.
Hmm.
So I was corporate at Fox and on-air promos, and I had interviewed for the for a writer's position on Matt TV. And I knew the executive who was across the show. So current programming are the executives who come to the shows, they give notes on the episodes and all of that.
Wow.
Into
Okay.
his office, and I was like asking him like, hey, do you know what they're doing with hiring the writers? And and I just told him what I was trying to do and that I had interviewed, and he was like, oh, well, let's call up the exec producer. I was like, okay, sit down. So I sat down, he called the exec producer up, and he said, hey, what do you think about Gabrielle Collins? And he was like, oh, we loved her. She was great. And he was like, okay, how do we get her on the show? Just like that. And
Wow.
he was like, well, we don't have the budget, for a lower level writer, da da da. And he was like, okay, what about a WGA trainee? Can we get her in under the trainee program? And that's how I started there.
Wow. That's interesting. I always wondered how writers kind of find their way into the business because, of course, there's several platforms that offer writer submissions and things of that nature where people can get discovered. But if you don't submit to those, but you're a great writer, like how do you stumble across um, becoming a writer in television or film? And so for the people who are watching, if you are interested and have not submitted through one of these platforms that you can submit your screenplay or teleplay, there's always these internships, the WGA Writers Trainee program that you can join. And
The
so
trainee
that's
program. And actually, a lot of the networks now they have different writer trainee programs that will help get you in and usher you onto a show. You can also, if you live in LA,
mm,
or I would say New York or someplace that, there's a production company,
mhm.
um, if they have a writer's room, you can try to become a writer's assistant.
Okay.
So the writer's assistant sits in the writer's room with the table of writers. They're the ones who type out all of the changes, and edit the script. And that's a great way in because then you get to meet writers, you get to speak with them, you get to talk to the executive producer.
Right.
You can let people know, hey, I'm interested in staffing as a writer.
Hmm.
And they're right there. So they're a lot more accessible to you, and you can always have them read your script. That's the hardest thing, is to get someone to read your script, especially now. Nobody wants to read, like nobody. You have to really make sure that um, when you approach people, that you have several scripts already done and that they're tight. Because I promise you, people are not reading past page 5. They're definitely not reading past page 10. So, like, but if they know you, they're like, okay, well, I'll keep reading a little bit, but they're gonna stop because they're like, this is not it.
Hmm.
This is not it. So you just really have to learn the format. And to me, the best way to learn it is by watching it. Watch the shows that you love and then write a script.
Right.
Write an episode of the show that you love. A lot of times they'll tell you to write a top 10 and you should but that really doesn't exist anymore, because you have streaming, you have
Hmm.
all these streaming platforms where you have these great shows. And so, it used to just be the top 10 network TV shows. But if it's
Okay.
just a really good show and you write a really good spec script for it, people will notice.
You also broke into producing and directing. You did a couple shorts with beginning Thinking Blue and Love in an Instant.
Yeah.
Um, and then you also did a sitcom, Danny 101.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about the producing side and the directing side and what you've been able to accomplish there.
Producing has been interesting because, well, it depends on which type of producer you are, right? Because of course you have like line producers who sort of allocate the funds, and
Right.
you know, when you executive produce, and it's like your baby, then you're across everything.
Hmm.
And I actually really like that because I always like to know everything, so I'm like, what are we doing now? What are we doing? People are just like, stop.
Yeah.
But so when I did like Thinking Blue, well, Thinking Blue, um, that also was Chris Christmas. And he did that. Chris was in the foster care system, and the short touches on that. It's about foster care, and a kid who's in foster care.
Hmm.
Very touching, I was happy to be a part of that project. Um, but I was more on the writing side, a little on the producing, logistics, because I wasn't able to be there for the shoot. They shot it in Denver.
Okay.
Um, what's the other one? Love in an Instant. So that was a lot of fun. Love in an Instant, I literally got the idea for this short film on a Monday. I remember it was on a Monday. And I was just like, this will be a great movie. So I called up my girlfriend and her boyfriend, and I said, hey, I have this idea for a short. Like, would you guys be willing to be in it for me? And they were like, sure. When you want to shoot? I was like, Saturday.
Immediately.
Saturday. And they were like, okay. So I had it, I just beat out.
Okay. I was getting ready to ask you, like, you already had it written and everything?
No, I didn't write anything, honestly.
Wow.
Like it was written in my head and I had it beat out. I had the points that I knew that I wanted to hit. And
Hmm.
then I went through their closets like early in the morning and was like, okay, you're going to wear this for this scene, this for this one, this, and, did that for both of them. And then I literally shot it at her house
Wow.
and just on the street right outside of her house. So I was like, okay, we're going to shoot this here and we're going to make this look like a club and we're going to shoot this. And like literally, I used the whole house because of course, I know what her house looks like. And I'm like, okay, I know how I can freak these rooms, because if you remember what a movie is, whether it's a short movie, whether it's a feature length movie, it's a series of moments. So it's literally like this moment and then that
Right.
moment and then that moment, so it can be this quick
Hmm.
and it can be this close,
Yeah.
like it can be
Yeah.
super tight and you don't have to get anything else. So they don't know that you shot in your garage or you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Did you film that guerrilla style? Did you have a crew that came through iPhone? Okay.
I shot it all on my iPhone.
Wow. Okay.
I
So
snapped, I
yeah, for the people watching, for sure you can do it with an iPhone. I know you
absolutely can. I mean, especially today's iPhone, because this is some years ago, but
can.
today's really great camera, really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I didn't have any lights. I had to use the lighting that was there.
Right.
Um, and so that's why I said it was a lot of fun. They were super easy to work with. And they just really allowed me to do what I wanted with the home with them.
Right.
And so that was a lot of fun. And then I edited it myself. Um, the next film, the 30-minute sitcom pilot that I shot, Danny 101,
Hmm.
I actually shot that twice. So a really good friend of mine shot, I think most of it. I don't think we got the whole thing, but we may have. I flew to New York.
Hmm.
We shot it in New York, guerrilla style, on the subways, stealing shots.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't exactly what I wanted. He directed it, and he's an amazing director. He's actually an award-winning director now. Um, but it was just something missing for me. So I came back to LA, and then maybe about 6 months later, I decided to reshoot it myself here in LA with a completely different cast. I directed it. I did props, I did set decoration. I used my home, I used my friends' homes, and then I edited. So that was like the longest thing I ever edited before. And I used to be a lower thirds graphics producer and in lower thirds graphics and end credits producer for Fox.
Mhm.
And so I sat with an editor every day. And I went into my editor, it was like, how do you do this? He was like, see, well, you see, huh? And I was like, oh my God, it's so tedious and menial, because it's literally like frame by frame by frame by frame.
Right.
So he was like, you have a new respect for me, huh? And I was like, I do. I do. Um,
Yeah, no, editing is a whole nother beast, man. You really have to be down to the finest detail and make sure you have everything.
Rotation,
Yeah.
yes,
Because really at the end of the day, even though the director is telling the story, the editor is really who puts the story together and makes it look the way it should look.
exactly.
Yeah, and play out the way it should play out, the timing and everything.
Yes.
So there's a lot that goes into editing, and people don't really give enough respect to editing.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
but as someone who like, I know what it should look like, it was a lot easier for me to do because I'm like, I know what I want. I know what this finished product should look like.
right.
And so, but I did have to call, like ask those editors. I had one of my boys who's an editor. Even when I gave him the pilot to look at, he was like, this your first time after that? I was like, yeah. He was like, this is the cleanest line I have ever seen. He was like, the cleanest first line I've ever seen. And I was like, thank you. But he gave me some tips, because I had some like little tricks in there. And he was just like, okay, this is how you do it.
Hmm.
And but yeah, so that's still one of my favorite projects. I would love to see that as a show. I still would love to see that as a show.
Okay. All
But
right. How long ago did you
long,
film?
long, long,
Okay.
long,
But you
long.
can but you're saying you could still bring it back today and make it fresh for 2024, 2025.
Absolutely. It's such a funny comedy. It's called Danny 101 because she teaches etiquette, but
Hmm.
she doesn't practice it.
Ah,
So,
okay.
yes,
Yeah.
she's a hypocrite, total hypocrite. But she has a show where she teaches etiquette. So, and she even says in the show, I don't exactly remember, but she says something to the effect of like her friend, she does something, and her friend is like, damn, don't you do etiquette? Or, like, don't you do etiquette for a living? She's like, that's my job. Like, I'm with my friends. I can do what I want.
Right.
So she's kind of like that.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like that. Now, as far as your more current projects, we touched on it briefly earlier. The Lady of BMF, the Tanisha Welch story. Um, you were nominated for an NAACP award for that project. First and foremost, congratulations.
Yeah.
And secondly, how did it feel to know that your work was nominated for an NAACP award?
Well, it's always nice to be recognized.
Mhm.
Um, and so it was a shock to me because I was just like I woke up to a text like, sis, you nominated. I'm like, what? And that was actually the text from Tressa, who executive produced the movie Megamind, and I actually share writing credit with her on the project. So she was super excited. She was sent me that text like, "Sis, wake up! We've been
Yeah,
nominated." So that was nice. She's such a lovely woman.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, so that one, the First Lady of BMF, Tanisa Welch story. And that was actually the reason that I was asked to work on that project is because I worked on the project, their first project. Uh, um, the title was long. American Gangster Presents Big 50, the
Yes.
Delranda Hood story. I just say Big 50.
Right,
to
right.
But that was the first story in the American Gangster series. So in case anyone is watching and they don't know, BET Plus produces a series, a docu-series called American Gangster, that Judge Mathis produces. And Big 50 was one of the stories on the second season. So the first season was all men, the second season was all women, and they called it American Gangster Trap Queens. And Big 50 is, she has such a captivating personality and really infectious, and she's hilarious. Like, her episode rated very well. So they asked me, hey, would you be interested in writing, turning this episode into a movie? And so once I started talking to her, I was like, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good.
Yeah.
And that one did so well for them that they said, hey, that one did so well. Would you be interested in First Lady of BMF? I was like, oh, for sure, definitely, And that's kind of how that came about.
Now, when you're working on a project like that, about how long is that process from the time that they reach out to you and say, "Hey, would you love to be a part of this project? Would you love to come on board as a writer and actually write, the screenplay for this?" How long is the process from the time that you begin writing the screenplay and then, through all the rewrites and everything like that, and up until the point that they actually go into production, and then the amount of time it took for the production.
Well, each one is a little different. I feel like they reached out to me in May or June
Hmm.
to let me know, right, that they were interested in having me write it. But we didn't actually do a contract, I don't think, until like September. So
Okay.
it took a long time. So they can't hire me until they get their contract done.
Hmm.
In this case, it was Tonisa. So sometimes negotiations can,
Take a
take,
while.
yeah, it's a lot of back and forth. Um, and then once they have her deal done, then they can do my deal. So that's kind of what happened. So I feel like it was around September. I don't know. It might have been after that because they usually give you like 2 weeks,
Hmm.
sort of get them an outline, right?
Right.
So in those 2 weeks, I talk to them almost every day, whether it's FaceTime, whether it's on the phone, whether it's Zoom,
Hmm.
and I just take notes and I ask a lot of questions. And, because I like to know like everything. It's not just like, tell me what you did, tell
Right.
me how you became this. For me, it was like, what was your family like when you grew up? You know, what were you like as a kid,
Mhm.
right? I like going to the root, like how did you end up, how you end up as the first lady of BMF? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? What was your
Right.
childhood like? So I really like to, dig deep into the background of people, um, and just sort of find out who they really are,
Hmm.
right? Because we can get lost in telling the story and just act like there's not a person behind what will be the character, right? Because they're playing a character. Someone will be playing them.
Right.
That's also the conversation that I have with them. I say, now this is not really you. This is going to be a character portraying you.
Yes.
So there are going to be some things in the story that might be embellished a little bit, or there are some things that we just have to cut out altogether. Um, we're not going to use no names, like we'll have to replace the names, that whole sort of thing. And it's just like, um, it's helpful when people understand that, like when they understand the entertainment factor, even though this was still their life, it was based on their life. Like I think for 50s, I had like 2 or 3 different men, and due to budget constraints, I
Mhm.
had to make them one. So I told her, I was like, look, So all three of these gonna be him.
Right. Yeah, you got to wrap them all into one.
Yeah, you do. And I was like, but that will show the different sides, of him. That's basically what I'm doing. I was like, so just so you know, this is who it's gonna be. And she's like, okay.
Mhm.
Um, and so usually you get 2 weeks for that. Then when you get the okay after they've gone through it, I think maybe you get 4 weeks to do a first draft and then maybe give you notes. I think so I think you get 2 weeks. If I remember, it was 2 weeks to get them a pilot outline, and then like a week or two for them to review it, give you notes, get back. Then 4 weeks for you to do a first draft. Then wait another 1 or 2 weeks for them to give you notes. Then go off and write another one for sometimes 2 weeks or 4 weeks. And then they give you notes again, and then you do a final draft. So,
Now,
um,
through all the rewrites, and this is a question that I've always wondered, and when they tell you to rewrite it again, obviously, you still are going to keep the necessary pieces of the story, but when you go through a full, complete rewrite, how grueling is that to do it time and time again and to do several changes when you feel like you've done enough and they keep coming back and saying, "Hey, can you change this again? Can you change this again?"
well, actually that sort of happened with the first lady of BMF, only because uh again, budget constraints, they came back and they said, "Hey, can you change this to something else?" Like there was a Molotov cocktail scene. Can you change that to something else? Sure. So instead of Molotov cocktails, I changed it to baseball bats,
Got it.
right?
Uh-huh.
Because of course, if you have Molotov cocktail scenes and they're on fire, then you have to have the fire
Right.
truck and chief of police or whoever on set, and so all those people have to get paid. And
Right.
then they have to do it for the day, and then you have to have an explosives person or whoever, I don't know, safety person, all of that stuff. So budget goes up.
Yeah.
So no problem. But like that one was a little difficult, and because I received notes from all of the production companies.
Mhm.
So it would have been better to get like one set of notes. So it was literally like I would go through one set of notes and address them, and then take the next printout, go through those set of notes, then take the next one, go through those set of notes. And then
Right.
sometimes it's conflicting, like the network might say one thing, but the production company might say another one. And then this production company might, and then Tonisa might say, I don't want none of that. So it was just like,
Yeah, I know.
So in the end, they just ended up like Tressa ended up, sort of going back and giving what the production company wanted.
Mhm.
I did it more for what the network, what I knew the network wanted, having done 3 previous films with them.
Mhm.
Um, so I was hoping that I was giving them, what they wanted, because I had to make the decision myself, like, because I got 4 drafts here and it's like, who do I go with?
Right.
So that was a good lesson for me too, because I was like, okay, in the future, as a part of my contract, I'm going to have to state I get one set of notes.
Mhm.
Yes. It just would make life easier. But it's not completely awful if you have to rewrite it and then rewrite it again. It just is, you know, it can just be time consuming, but that's what you're getting paid for.
Right. Yeah.
It's easier if you have a clear vision, and if you're given a clear vision.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're not, but if you're given a clear vision, if you're given cohesive notes from everyone, um, then the process goes a lot easier. Big 50, but I didn't like do major rewrites on those. Um, but the first time that they gave me notes, um, I guess my computer wasn't up to date and I wasn't able to see the notes on the side, but it was like some handwritten notes, but then it was like typed notes. And
Mhm.
so I only saw the handwritten, and I was like, oh, okay, da, da, da. And then they were like, you didn't address any of the notes. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he was like, I said, can you send it to me as a PDF? So then when I saw it as a PDF, I was like, oh my gosh. Like they probably were like, she just ignored everything that we wrote.
Right.
I had no idea, you know. Again, that was a lesson to be like, okay, let's have my stuff up to date. Let's open up these documents. Let's make sure that I have what I need, you know, because it really is better to ask questions. Like, even if you feel like you bugging somebody, it's like, you know, there really no notes on here.
Yeah, no, but it is good to have those lessons, so that way you know for the future. And we all go through those things to where there's things that we miss, or overlook. But
Right.
it's not always on on purpose. We're all human.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it's good to know so that way you know what to look for down the road in case you run into that situation again.
Right.
Um, Now you also have Throwback Holiday on BET. Um, Talk a little bit about that project.
So Throwback was actually BET's first original holiday movie. They were trying to get into the Hallmark, Lifetime, you know, holiday space.
Mhm.
And that movie was originally not a holiday movie. It was called Throwback High, and it was more in the vein of like 17 again
Okay.
or 13 going on 30.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the production company was like, hey, so they really like Throwback High, but they want to make it a holiday movie. I was like, no. He was like, what do you mean? No. I said, it's not a holiday movie.
Right.
If we make it a holiday movie, it's only going to be played during the holidays. And it's not a holiday movie. Like I want my movie played all year long.
Yeah.
It took a whole lot of back and forth.
Well,
So
obviously they won.
convinced me to make this a holiday movie.
Uh,
And the production company was Tridestin Productions here in Los Angeles, and Indy Brown, who I absolutely love, and Trey Haley and Greg Anderson. They're all at the top there. And I did it, and I'm sure they hated me on set, but they had me on set because they would be like, you know, if it was little changes, they would want me. But I was just like, they had to dress a room, you know, and I brought a whole comforter set to dress the room, and it was wrinkled. So I'm like literally on the set ironing, and they were like, what is she doing? I can't have this on camera.
right. Well, again, all lessons learned as you're going through the process.
Like, this girl is too much. I was like, hey, I want this to be the best movie you can. So if that means that I have to get down here and iron a comforter, I got no problem with it. No problem with it. So yeah, but I'm sure they were sick of me on set because I was just like, what y'all doing?
But those are things that you do need to pay attention to because a lot of these up and coming filmmakers, they'll focus on certain aspects of creating the film, but they don't focus on all of the details. And so when we're watching a film, let's just say it's on Tubi, and then you notice all of the mistakes that they've made along the way, and I know they don't want you to point those things out, but to the trained eye, you're going to notice those things at first, at first watch. So it's always good to have or to know what to be prepared for, and not mess up and not have things going on in the background that you later are like, oh, I regret I had that in the
And usually, I'll say this, they usually don't allow writers on the set.
right. I've heard that as well. Yes. Yeah.
Most productions, but they were so cool. They were so super cool. And they were like, no, we want you on in case we need any changes or this and that, you know.
Right.
But they were really great about that. And they made it a lot of fun. Like, and and the director was like, I hear you hate the movie. I'm like, I don't hate the movie. This is just not, I wrote a comedy. Like, I'm a
Right.
comedy writer. I wrote a comedy. He was like, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. So it was less of a romantic comedy and more of a romantic drama. So it still turned out great. They were super sweet. They allowed me to do some really cool things, like the girl in the movie, her father had passed away. So it was just her and her mom. And my father at the time was very much alive. And they wanted a picture like of who her dad could be. And I was like, you know what? I have a picture of myself and my dad with me as a little girl.
Wow.
And the actress was Jennifer Freeman. And
Wow.
so I printed the picture up. It's like right on the wall behind them, like near the Christmas tree. So that was a cool thing. And then it was a picture of my mom.
Mhm.
I was able to put a picture of my mom up in the movie and my grandmother, but they ended up not shooting that way, like where my grandmother's picture was. So that was a really cool
Yeah.
thing, allowed me to do, to have my parents be a part of it, but not be a part of it,
Yeah.
Um,
That's still awesome because every time you see it,
time I see it, I get to see them, so that's pretty great, especially since they're both gone now. So it's like, that's a nice little moment. So, but that was my first, feature that was produced. And, shout out to them for taking a chance on me and, producing that movie with BET. So
yeah. And you've worked with Megamind and Octet Productions. Um, any more projects with DMV production companies in the works?
I was hired through BET, and those were their production companies because it's so close to the New York office where they were out of. And so I think it was just for them, proximity. Um, and so they,
Yeah.
use those DMV production companies. So, but Chuck was great to work with. Like I said, Tressa was great to work with here. Indy and Trey were great to work with. And shout out to my guy, Christopher Nolan, who did my movie Mary Switchmas.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
Chris actually called me with the idea for it. It was called Identical Christmas initially. And he said, I got this idea for a movie. He was like, but I'm not really a writer. I direct, that's my thing. And he was like, but I got this idea. And what do you think about it? And I was like, mm, like, why would twins switch? Like, they're grown. Why would they switch? And I said, let me think about it. And if I can think of a way
Hmm.
that the twins would switch organically, like, sure.
Yeah.
And then it took me about 3 weeks to sort of get it. And then I called him. I was like, I think I got a way in. I think I got a way we can do it. So he
Okay.
was, okay, I like that. And I said, well, I'm just going to write something because we had a small budget initially. And I said, I'm just going to write a little something, a few pages, and then you tell me if I'm off. And so I think I wrote 30 pages. Think I wrote 30 pages and sent it to him. And he was like, I love it. I got to get us more money.
Yeah, and
And
then the
that's
rest
what
is
he did.
history.
That man did it
Wow.
and he got us more money. And we were able to shoot that film. And he really allowed me, I was an executive producer on that one. So he really allowed me to get in and, get my hands dirty. And I was putting up Christmas trees and decorations and all of that stuff. And again, he was probably like,
What is she doing?
you really love Christmas. So I was like, dude, I love production value. Like, I want people to see this and be like, boom, 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 boom. I want a Christmas tree in every room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Make it look authentic and real and
yeah.
well decorated, not,
Because my family, like my sister lived not too far from where we shot.
Mhm.
And when I tell you she have a Christmas tree up in every room,
Yeah.
and each tree has its own theme,
Right.
ridiculous. And actually, we used one of her trees. A lot of the decorations that were there, we actually used from one of the crew members because she lived nearby.
Wow.
And like everybody, it was all hands on deck. It was it was really, really great. It was really lovely. Everybody really pitched in. So
Got to utilize those resources, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now you have a current project that you're working on called Cornered,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. Um, I know it's probably under wraps, so there might be, not much you can say about it, but that's what you're currently working on?
Right. That's what I'm currently trying to get funding for. So, um, it has been my hardest film to write.
Okay.
And the reason it was so hard is because it's a Chicago-based drama about a kid who feels cornered, right? Um, because he's uh, in the life, right? In the street life,
Mhm.
but he's also a very intelligent kid and very talented. But those talents, have fallen by the wayside because
Up the
he's out,
street.
he's out in the streets. And so he has a mentor, who helps sort of get him together. And that's why it was so difficult for me to write because it's the voices of two Black men, right? A young one and an older one. And I wanted to make sure that I was being true to Black men, you know. I had their voice, that but this is really a story that was based in reality, and it's set on the south side of Chicago in Englewood, which is where I grew up.
Mhm.
And I say it's Good Will Hunting meets Boys in the Hood.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
very powerful. Like, I literally, the men who I have had read it, they cried.
Mm.
They cried. It's very, very powerful. Um, and they all, it resonated with them. Like, they all were like, this has either happened to me, right? Or this is what I've had to deal with. Like one of my best friends, he deals with the youth, and so it really rang true for him.
Mm.
Um, and just hearing those stories, it was just like, okay. Because initially, I'll tell you this, one of my boys who's from Philly, love him to death, my Freddie Fred. He's an amazing actor and director. He read it, he read the opening, and he was like he loved everything except the opening. Not that he didn't like the opening, he
Um,
just thought it wasn't plausible enough,
oh,
right? A few months later, a story comes out, which was basically the opening. He was like, oh
wow.
my God, did you see that story? And I was like, I know that you don't know what happened, but it used to happen.
Yeah.
But it really used to, even though I have it set in Chicago, it mainly happened here in LA. But yeah, he was like, oh my God, you were right. Yeah, I got it. I got it. I know what I'm doing here. I know.
I got it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So I'm currently trying to shop that. I've been meeting with companies and stuff like that because I want like real money.
yeah.
I want I want, here's why. I love this movie so much. I want Jeffrey Wright. I want,
You're gonna need somebody powerful. Yes.
you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
imagine Jeffrey Wright as Robin Williams in
Mm.
Good Will Hunting. What?
Yeah.
Come on.
And
That's
he would
that's
kill it.
kill it and kill it again. I was like, I have to have Jeffrey. So
Yeah.
I was trying to get real money because I want to give him a real offering. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to, yes, it's gonna be low budget, but I don't want it to have to be ultra low budget. Good Will Hunting cost 10 million to make. They gave 5 million to Robin. If I were able to do something like that and give, obviously they're both worth so much more, but they being real chintzy with the money these days. Um, so yeah, I was like, I need Jeffrey and Angelou.
And ingenue too.
Money. I'm
Yes.
talking money. I got to have money to have these people.
Yeah, yeah. It might be more than 10 million. Let me tell you, especially after the years that they had, both of them.
Right, right. And I'm like, look, he just won. I was like, oh Lord Jesus.
Right.
I've been working on this for the past few years before he did American Fiction. And now that he has that, it's like, and I
What
did.
I was
But
gonna
the
say,
reason that I wanted, the reason why I thought that I could get him was because he did that. I'm not sure what you call it, but it was like a informational, I guess, or commercial or something for Uncle Nearest whiskey.
yeah. Uh-huh.
That I can get Jeffrey. He did this because he loved it. He believed in this
Yeah.
project. You know what I'm saying? Of course, they paid him, but you know,
Sometimes that's what it takes is
part
for
of
him
the
to
culture,
see
right? And so I was
from the
like,
yeah, for him to see the vision.
script. He
Yeah.
would absolutely love this script. And I don't say this about my other scripts. I mean, I haven't said this about anything that I've written. This is an Academy Award winning script.
Yeah.
This is an Academy Award winning story. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So I'm being very particular about where I take it, you know, who comes on board,
Right.
and all that good stuff because I am directing it when
Yeah.
it gets.
Do you have the proper channels to reach out to Jeffrey or Anjanou or
I do, but I don't have the money. So I
right,
don't want to
right,
approach
right.
without making sure that I have funds, you
Got
know. I have an incredible friend who's a big casting director, and he's like, "Oh, those are my people.
it. Mm,
Where the money?"
right.
So
Yeah.
we're working on money, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
because they're worth it. Like I can't step to them wrong.
right. Would you say that's probably the most difficult part about this is securing the money, or are there other obstacles that you're facing?
Nope. Like literally, that's it. I'm just looking at money. So I'm debating on whether to like maybe shoot a trailer for it to garner interest in order to raise money, or to because I've considered crowdfunding, um, and also making the trailer more like a short, and
Mhm.
then maybe entering it into contests in order
To get
to.
that yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
See, I haven't figured it out yet.
That's all right. You're getting there though. You're getting there. And it's gonna happen for you. I know it will.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
My
Trust
baby,
me.
my baby right now. That's the one I'm like, and it's gonna be in Chicago. Like, come on.
Right. It's going to mean the most to you, and it's when you see it actually unfold in front of your eyes, and you go into production, and then you guys rap. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Um, Now you're focusing on your own production company as well, which is Misadventures in Writing. Um, Yes. Are you looking to branch out and have a slew of projects under your production company? Are you taking it one project at a time? Where are you in that process?
Project at a time. So actually, what I'm working on right now, on a smaller scale, because that's what we're doing. I'm doing a trilogy of short films.
Okay.
So we plan to begin shooting those next month in September. So literally what happened was I went to ABFF where I met you,
Yeah.
but also, you know, connected with some great people and who were also here in LA.
Mhm.
And we just kind of were like, well, let's do something together. You know, I have the space. Oh, I have cameras. Oh, I have actors, you know, like, and that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And so now we're just like, okay, let's put all of that together and let's just create something because a lot of times, um, we can sit and talk about what we want to happen instead of going and doing, right?
Right.
And I mean, I get it. Like, it's a lot of people in this business who are out of work. I don't know if you know the effects that the strike has had, the effects that runway production has had on California.
Mm.
It's massive. Like the union, IATSE, they just announced that their uh, arts department, it's like the set decoration, right? Like the arts department. They usually have interns every year. Like remember we were talking about the Writers Guild having interns.
Right.
They're not having any this year because, or their apprenticeships. They're not having it because 3/4 of their workforce is unemployed.
Wow.
Um, and so a lot of times people are like, I can't afford it. I can't do anything for free. Da da da. You know, I've been doing this too long. Not to get paid. That whole sort of thing. But then you get people who are like, fuck it, let's do it. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of how we are. So we were like, hey, let's just do this. Because sometimes it's easier to look to your left and to your right, you know, instead of trying to look up to somebody and be like, give me some
Right.
help, you know. No, look here.
Right. Yeah, because
See who
we have
next.
all of the resources.
Yeah, yeah. And see who's just willing to be down to put something together, you know, and come together to make some art. And so that's what happened. So we're going to do those projects under there.
Okay, nice. Nice. So besides that, what else is next for Gabrielle Collins?
Next, I am working on an animation version
Okay.
of um, my blog. So I have a blog, but I haven't worked on it a very long time. But it's a cute idea, it's a cute concept. Like the name of my company, the blog is Misadventures in Dating.
Hmm.
And Lord have mercy, if you ever dated in LA, I mean, probably is dating anywhere at this point, but LA is something different and something special. So I actually have a meeting with an animated production company in 2 weeks
Oh
to
wow.
pitch, yeah, to pitch the project too. So they're excited about it.
Mhm.
I'm excited. So hopefully we can make that happen.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have your hands in a little bit of everything, which is cool. Yeah. Constantly working, you know?
I mean, you have to be. Otherwise, we just sitting here twiddling our thumbs.
Right.
You know, you have to stay busy, stay creative. I mean, as creatives, it is easy for us to get down and depressed, you know, just because that's who we are.
Mhm.
But I feel like if you're staying in motion, you don't get down as easily, you know. It's
Right.
always something to do to keep
Right.
you up, keep you going. So
Yeah. Well, Gabrielle, this is the final word where I like to give our guest a chance to say either a piece of advice, words of encouragement, or a quote that they like to live by. You can say one of the three, or you can say all three. It's up to you.
okay. Um, my advice to anyone, and I'm just going to speak directly for writing,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, Learn the craft. And that doesn't mean that you have to take a bunch of courses. That doesn't mean that, you know, you have to spend an extensive amount of money learning how to write. That means reading, right? Read scripts. You literally can go on Google and Google flight script PDF.
Right.
And the script from Flight, the movie with Denzel, you can read the script. Look at the script, study it. Look at what they wrote. Like that's the most important thing is to study the script and really see how the process works, you know, and literally you can look at the script and see that. So for me, it's like learn how to write. And it doesn't matter if it's a TV script is written differently from a film script is written differently from a um even a drama is written differently from a sitcom script, you know, a sketch comedy script is written different. So learn the format that you're most interested in
Mhm.
and uh, go to the library. But you don't even have to go to the library. It's online. Like you literally can get it on your iPad or on your phone, you know, look up screenwriting books. They have screenwriting for dummies. They have screenwriting 101. Like there's so many books that you can read. And I would just say be a really voracious reader um, and learn the craft. and don't get stuck on the idea, right? Whatever your idea is, like, oh, I have it, but I'm not ready yet. Like, just, yeah, we do vomit drafts. That's what we call them. Just spit it out. Just at least have a draft of something. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be in the correct format. It's your vomit draft. It's your ideas. It's just get something out. And then when you go back and read it, you're like, oh, okay, I have a little something to work with here.
Right.
We can spend a lot of time procrastinating and, um, just get it out. And then you can worry about the formatting, format it properly, and read it again. The key to writing is not the vomit draft, is not the first draft.
Mhm.
It's the 23rd draft. It's the 51st draft.
Yeah.
You have to write and rewrite until you want to vomit every single time you look at that script. Because there's always something, there's always something that could be changed or added or subtracted. So really the key to writing is rewriting. And I think everyone would probably tell you that. So just go and do it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that piece of advice. And don't be afraid to venture out and put your ideas on paper, make it happen. Not every idea is going to be a dumb idea. Sometimes the dumb idea can work itself out until it becomes a great idea. So yeah, anytime you have those ideas, it's always good to put it on paper. And then, like you said, try to figure out a way to put it into correct format and make it make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Gabrielle, thank you so much for doing this interview. I truly appreciate your time, your knowledge, and your energy. And you've been a great friend since the moment I met you. We've had several great conversations. We're going to continue to have even more after this, and I have more to talk to you about off the record. But yeah, I enjoyed this. This was great.
Thanks so much for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it.